Between the two of us, we have over 500 employees. In this video, we're going to give you over 50 years of business experience in just a few minutes.
Greatest thing, we have a little over 200 employees, and so we have a Amazon delivery service partner. So we're last mile delivery to your door. So if you see the branded vans that are in everybody's neighborhood, we've got about 140 vehicles that are working throughout Madison, Wisconsin, and Milwaukee. The hiring process, we actually started in the middle of COVID, which was challenging, right? So if you have social distancing, everybody's home. So talk about it actually worked out to our benefit because a lot of people were looking for work.
That's why your vans are more than 6 feet.
Yeah, right. There's social distancing between all of them, right? But along that way too came challenging of training. You know what I mean? Just with social distancing, as you're talking about, because then you got to start thinking of safety and everything else, right?
So just to throw another wrinkle in of hiring, you throw COVID in.
Threw COVID in the middle of it, right? So, but the nice thing is currently with us a little over 200 employees, everybody started out as a driver. So we have not gone externally outside of the Amazon model to hire any of our management, to our VP of operations, to human resources. So the nice thing is about that is we've developed a company ethos where it's customer first because Amazon's our only customer in our model. It's a great cash flow business, but it's good and bad that you have one of the best brands out there that you're working with. But you have a single customer.
You're beholden to Amazon.
Yeah, correct.
But
and
you also want to treat them like they're your best customer.
And so, but we're also representing the brand of Amazon in everybody's neighborhood, right? So when you look at building and hiring, you got to make sure that the ethos is there of your company to accentuate not only perfect puzzle, but obviously the brand of Amazon, because they're the golden gooses that keep all of our cash flow going. So the nice thing is though, is before when we would put an ad on Indeed, we'd get 0 resumes, right? And this is kind of like something that I see of hiring. Now for driver positions, we're getting a lot of people that are giving us resumes. So there's twofold to look at that. Either more people are looking for work, right? So you're hiring, or obviously people are looking at a driver for Amazon as a professional career. So it's actually been getting a little bit easier to hire, using platforms like Indeed, but a lot of it's actually coming from referrals from within to keep our turnover, because we do have a little bit higher turnover than other companies. So, overall, I think we've hired 600 people there to keep that 200. So you got to work at that pool of who's going to be safe. And that's where, coming from the training team of the management, that everybody started out as a driver, that we know it's safety first that's on the road, and then taking the quality of delivering a package of the customer ethos, and hiring actually becomes easier because our whole group is hiring. It's just not Travis doing the hiring.
Yeah. There's a few things I've learned over the years. We've hired thousands of people. We have a little over 300 now. One is attitude matters more than experience. I think that's probably the biggest thing for us. In other words, you can hire somebody. A lot of people lean on experience. I've been doing this for so long, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. But really the only thing that matters is, are they open-minded? Are they fun to be around? Can they allow new stuff in, right? Because if they're hired in your company, you're going to want somebody that's going to have to learn. And some people don't learn. Some people are like, this is what I've known, this is how I've done it. So attitude, I think, is a big, big, big one. The other thing is, really good employees are rarely on the market. So now, that's not always true, because sometimes they do move to an area. But if you think about it, somebody who's highly valued employee, they're more than likely going to have a job wherever they're moving to before they go, right? Not always, but rarely do people move and just move somewhere and they're not employed. So sometimes the pool of people that are looking for work are not always the best pool of people. That's the other thing. Not always, but in most cases. So I think you got to have a strategy, at least we do, of going and finding the best people for your business, and most of the time they're working. So how do you do that? You do that when the economy is actually down. So like like we're heading into this time of AI, and there's going to be a lot of jobs replaced with AI. And what that's going to do, it's going to disrupt employment. Mm-hmm. The pool of the unemployed is going to be much more rich than it is if the employment's really, really tight. So there's kind of a time too, and so you got to think of an employee as a long game, right? So, somebody that's working somewhere and crushing it, in my experience, it could be years before you get them to come over in some of the higher positions.
Yeah, and even looking at merit, right? And merit kind of goes along with you as like, let's just say if we have 200 people, one bad egg can actually draw down the culture of your company.
It will.
I mean, it can fester, really fast. And even with us of hiring from within and moving up our management from becoming a driver, those management understand what it's like to be on the road doing 250 stops, delivering 400 packages. There's 16 inches of snow on the ground, there's ice. I mean, there's a lot of challenges that are moving there, but also too, that management team understands even the safety aspect of it. When you start managing the people, right, of, hey, if we're having all these accidents, now insurance becomes a risk for our company. A good way when I say building from drivers from all the way up, you build that good ethos, and that's where that merit comes in. And I think you touched on it a little bit too, when you're looking at AI and going, it could be a reason we're seeing more resumes coming in where we never saw resumes before.
Yeah, we're certainly seeing that.
Yeah, and their quality, resume, and maybe they're using AI to develop that, but
maybe.
Yeah, right. But the other avenue too is a lot of our drivers are actually former military, because it is a physical job.
Well,
people are coming out of the military, and the nice aspect too is even looking at military people that are veterans and military coming, let's say they're in 4 years, you're also getting somebody that actually, not to say that they take direction, but they're working within that team atmosphere. And if we're delivering 10,000 packages a day, it's not just one driver or Travis that's out there delivering those packages. You're working as a team aspect, and all the drivers work together to make sure that last package gets delivered, because we're, again, sufficing to our customer, Amazon, and the person that's ordering that package, and then you bring in that team aspect. So you're looking at a lot of things we look for too is, were they athletes? Because we know that they're gonna have a sport, from that standpoint. If someone's 21 years old and they're just getting out of college, is there a big gap in between of what they've been doing for employment before? Because maybe they're not gonna be a good team player. So ours is a heavily team atmosphere with the merit, looking at athletes, looking at people that are having that stepping stone, and attrition is a big thing in employment for everybody. One of the things that we have, like with our company, of holding on to good employees, because you are at risk of them hopping, and we're hourly employees, so it's a little bit different mentality for us, is I always tell even our employees, if you're gonna hop for 50 cents, you're just making a lateral move, right? What skills can you do to better yourself? And if you're gonna leave our company and you're gonna make something to better yourself, I support that, right? If there's not a position at the time within our company that we need a new manager, because we can only pay so much, obviously, to hold our margins. But to attain that person, I always just say, don't make a lateral move because you're not bettering yourself. If you're just hopping for a quarter or something, that's gonna be your constant mindset, versus what skills can you bring to the table to bring more value to your employer to up their income. And that model has worked great for our retention within our business.
So our hiring process, oddly enough, hasn't changed all that much. We have job descriptions for every role, right? So that's super clear. And I think if you don't have that, you have to have that. So we have job descriptions for maintenance, for leasing, for property management, for regional management, for accounting, for IT, for HR, for marketing. So every single position within the marketing department has a job description. So that could be the digital media person, it could be the social media person, it might be the director. So I think it's really interesting to have those. You got to have those clear, because that's actually what you put out there. This is what we're looking for. We're looking for a director of whatever it is. And it says in there, inside of there. And now all of a sudden you have, kind of benchmarks. That's always kind of been the case. I think what's really interesting today is the old school model was sending out that on Indeed or whatever it might be. Now today with social media, it's actually very interesting. You can actually go do something on YouTube and say, hey, we're looking for this person, and it could be immediate. So, I've seen a lot of people put stuff out on LinkedIn and Twitter, and certainly all the other social media platforms, including YouTube. And you can get really, really fast responses of people, and you're actually going out quicker, and you might be going to markets that, maybe Indeed isn't hitting. So that process, I call that inbound, right? And then one of the things that's gotten better for us as a company is the onboarding, right? So what does an employee look for? I think that's really important. Well, they look for the company, obviously the compensation, but they also look for culture. Things like philanthropy, how involved the company might be in the community, what they're doing beyond just the business piece. So it's kind of a well-rounded thing. So good employees respond to those kinds of things. But then the good ones, they're going to want training and onboarding, kind of like what Travis was saying. Like, it's one thing to come on as a driver, but then it's like, what's beyond that? Is there anything beyond that? And the answer might be no, but it might be yes. And if it is yes, what's the path? And is there a ladder I can climb inside of this organization if I'm going to make a 1 year, 5 year, 10-year commitment? And so all of those things are important, and they haven't really changed too much as long as you're addressing the future employees' needs. But I do think as you start to hire, those are all the things that employee wants. So you start to backfill that kind of stuff, and then you start to get more interest and a better quality employee.
Yeah, even for us, like Indeed was a big thing at the very beginning of like how we've changed. So since our model, there's a little more than 2,000 other delivery service partners with Amazon around the country. And the one thing that's nice about that is even though you're operating within a model, there's 2,000 other operators that are also along the way of doing the same thing. So what we were able to do is actually partner with other business owners that not necessarily are just in Wisconsin, but we were able to hire the same recruiter that's used in different models like social media, going to job boards, looking at, tech schools. But what we were able to add, and Amazon came along with this program, which is really good, is we offer actually online education. So if they're working 4 days and 3 days, so we're able to actually offer schooling this time. And let's say they're going to go into a 4-year program to be auto body, right? Or some sort of technical skill that we've been able to push online and actually go to the physical location schools that are around us, where Amazon will actually help us reimburse for education. So we're 4 years in and looking at more of a professional and actually get that ladder, as you're talking about education going up, because we operate 7 days a week. So we can be very flexible with our schedules and work around people for schooling, but actually build that leadership within. And then looking at the actual hiring process, we were able to outsource that to bring people. Once we actually have somebody walk into our building and we actually interview everybody in person, but we're actually already getting a pre-qualified screen candidate from the ethos of other DSP owners in the area. They may not be in the same state, but we know exactly what that same job description is, and we're all looking for the same candidate. But once we actually personally interview somebody, they've already had a pre-screening up front, so we're not wasting more labor and time. We can screen them on the end and bring in, if we need 5 more drivers, we bring in 15 candidates, and we'll pick the top 5 out of those 15. Mm-hmm.
I think this is a lot like dating. Like on your first date, everybody's on their best behavior. In that first time period, whatever it is, you're all on your best behavior. You're interviewing the best. The employer is representing themselves as being the best. So it's not just one side. But then what happens is stuff starts to pop out. I mean, the right way to do it is to have a really, really good training program in the first, 1 month to 90 days, for sure, 1 to 3 months. You have to have kind of a cadence. And in our company, there's a whole series of things that we're trying to do to call it onboard. And then after that, there's at a minimum, weekly management, right? Weekly meetings. Everybody has to be accountable for whatever it is they're accountable for. And there's a cadence to that, right? So, and then what happens is you invariably see people that are really, really good at things and really not very good at things. So sometimes maybe they're not very good at just communication, right? Or maybe they're really good at communication, whatever it is. So you got to work with the employee themselves, and each one is a project, really, and you have to just address their strengths and their weaknesses, and the goal is to help them succeed and be better than even they think that they can be. So, sometimes it requires very little time. I've hired people where they're like, just let me go, I'm good, and then you weigh in with them every once in a while. And then sometimes you get ones that need a little bit more hand-holding, but both are important, and both are worth the time.
Yeah. And I have a little bit different style. Is Kenny and I are both collegiate athletes, which is great. So we have a mindset of team, and even with us, like, our team goes out every day to deliver. So I have a saying that I don't police the locker room, and you know what this is like. If you had your coach that walked into the locker room, everybody will act a little bit different, right?
Yeah.
So during our morning process of, even like us, like, safety is the number one thing and quality is the number one thing. So before we actually go on the road, we have our management of safety and quality. We do what we call a stand-up. So we all check our vans, check the safety of the tires. Are they good working condition? Before that van even goes out on the road, we just have a checklist there. But after that, we have a stand-up meeting. So our managers that are on the day of the management for that style, they can actually look at everybody in the eye to make sure they're in good driving condition, because they're going to go out onto the road. Okay, so we want to make sure that the safety is there. But we actually call out everybody in the circle. So if they were there the day before, the way that our vans are set up is Amazon did a really good job with safety, right? So we have technology in our van that we know if somebody goes over 1 mile an hour over speeding. We know if they roll through a stop sign. We know, are they tracking too close to another vehicle? And this has tremendously even helped out our insurance costs from that standpoint. But also, too, it's evolved great behavior within our company. So we call them infractions. So we actually call out, if anybody, right to everybody in the group, we call them out and say, you had, XYZ person had this many infractions. But then on the backside, we do what's called a green star driver. And if they've had no safety violations or anything of that nature, we build a pretty good ethos from that, and we do gift cards, maybe a $25 Chick-fil-A, McDonald's, or whatever. So everybody has grown up, come through our organization and know exactly what we're looking for in our employees when you're managing them. I don't police the locker room, because if I walk out there, they're all going to behave differently, versus if our managers that are working with them on a daily operation or a day-to-day activity, those things are going to pop up as you're talking about. But if I come there, they're going to be like on day one, right? So doing this, where we're doing the stand-ups, and we're calling out the goods and the bads and the successes and the wins and where we can get better as a team, has really helped us, pull through like how our team operates every day.
So I love the book Good to Great. He says, just hire the best people and figure out what seats they should be in. I think that's a really good way to say it. So what you do is you hire the best attitude, you hire the best people, and then what happens is they're all on the bus, and then eventually your job is to figure out what seat is best for them. So sometimes it's just like a football team. Like, we know plenty of people that start off in one position and they ended up in another position, and they never realized how good they could be somewhere else. And so it's the same in business. Sometimes people, they've been on a track, and you see something in them that you could put them in a better seat. And so that's been our philosophy, is And also, sometimes they've had enough of that seat. And if you guys are communicating fine and they say, you know what, I've been in this seat for 3 years or 4 years and I want to move up. Now you got to look at putting them in a new seat. So now you're pushing them. And so the whole thing's a process, but you got to kind of weigh in with where they are. You got to meet them where they're at and make sure that they are in the right seat. So one of the mistakes I see all the time, at a property, let's say, is they promote a leasing agent who's really good at sales to an assistant manager position, which becomes more admin, more accounting, more paperwork, and all of a sudden that doesn't always work. Or a maintenance guy to maybe a maintenance supervisor and doesn't have any experience, supervising people, and then you don't give them any support. So those are some of the mistakes. Sometimes a salesperson is very different than somebody who's really good with numbers. Not all the times, but so you got to recognize that as an employer and make sure that they're in the right seat. Because if they're in the right seat and you're not pushing them into these areas that they're uncomfortable with, like literally even just sitting across the table from somebody and having a conversation, they might not be comfortable with that. And they're not going to feel great, or they're going to have all this anxiety before, during, and after. So what you do is you just make sure that they're in the right spot. And then you plug the gaps, or you coach them up if they're coachable and they want to. Sometimes they don't want to. So I think that's the right way to do it. Personally, that's how we've done it, is just get them all on the bus, make sure the bus is going the right direction, and then you're constantly adjusting.
Yeah. I like to see people make mistakes, and that's something that I think has fallen through the wayside of education. Taking a test and people are graded on tests. Do they feel like they didn't, did they fail this test? And they're afraid to make a decision, or, so coaching that is something that's a different leadership style, I think. I don't know if you see this. It's like, we get so many young people that come in and they're afraid to make a decision because they're worried that it's going to be the wrong decision.
Right, and sometimes that's because of what's happened to them
in the
before.
past.
They've never felt comfortable with making decisions, and that's a really, really
it's
good.
like falling forward.
It's
or
a
something,
very
right?
good point.
And the hardest thing about being like, someone asked me today, is it easier to go from 1 employee to 10 employees, or is it easier to go from 10 to 100? I think it's easier to go from 10 to 100 because you're developing, you already have those people that can help you get to that point. And, it's the, are you down, the philosophy that, are you down and in a company? Or are you up and out and looking it forward? So allowing those people to fail. If they're failing all the time at the same thing, you got the wrong person, maybe in the wrong position.
Or it could be bad leadership.
Yeah. Or bad leadership.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, it could be our fault.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so to your point, maybe they're in the wrong position. Maybe there's not good training. Maybe there's not good communication.
Yeah.
Maybe they could be. I've had situations where we've had really, really, really good employee to, be highly perform for a long period of time, and then have a bad year. And the supervisor was going to let them go.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa, something's wrong here. Like, what's going on with the person? So we dug down into their personal life.
Right.
And we found that there were some things going on there which was disrupting. But they could have easily just been a number and a termination.
Yeah.
And they did a bunch of stuff wrong. But what happened was, once we addressed the kind of, the real issue, because how can you be really, really good and then all of a sudden have a year that's not, right?
And even for us, one of the things that's we've been able to do to build good employees is, you got to think about it. The drivers are on their own on the road.
Yeah.
It's kind of like one of those rare opportunities where someone, even though they're seeing people out there, they're in a van kind of isolated, and if they're not performing well, it sticks out to the team, right? Because it's it's like a wrestling match. Like, you and I play completely different sports.
It's the locker room.
I could slough it on the line, right? And, like whatever. But if you're out there on the mat by yourself, that's why wrestling's a cool sport, because even though you're playing a team sport, but your eyes are on you, right?
Well, an underperformer, gets kicked out of a good culture.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. That's where I was going with it, right? And that's my philosophy too. I don't police.
Yeah, like in my world, in the wrestling, if you had a guy that you could tell, right?
Yeah.
They're either giving it all or they're not. And the team
is going to weed out.
The team actually calls the guy out.
Yeah.
The coach handles it, but typically, if it has to be the coach, then it's the coach's problem because the coach actually didn't empower the team.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting.
And even in that style, as an entrepreneur, you want to do it all the time, and you want to intervene all the time.
You do.
I actually found out it took me a while to figure that, and that's the uncomfortable portion too a little bit. It's kind of like the less you say, the more you're going to get, or if you just kind of back out a little bit and not be the helicopter parent and try to sit there and solve all the problems, because as you're trying to scale a company, if you do that right away, everybody's going to be calling you for the answers all the time versus
you personally will burn out, but also you're not
Yeah.
developing people.
Yeah.
If you're helping, like literally answering all their questions,
Yeah.
they're not getting developed.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of funny, like Corey, our operations manager, like a new employee will come in and they'll be like, well, I'm going to call Travis, and Corey will laugh. He goes, he won't answer you. He goes, he'll be here, but he'll talk, of course, but he's going to say, if he answers, he's going to be like, well, what do you think how you can solve the problem? Right. So Corey, now automatically the ethos is everybody thinks about how they can solve the problem before they make the
Isn't
phone
that
call.
why you pay
Because I'll always answer someone's
That's
call.
what they're paid for.
I agree.
Yeah.
Right. So I wish I'd work with my wife.
That'll never happen.
Yeah, right.
Limitless is a big piece of getting together. We got 50 speakers, 2,000 people coming together one time a year. It's interesting. This morning I had a really, really good conversation with a very successful entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And he had heard of Limitless, and I said, he's like, what about this guy? What about that guy? What about this guy? And I go, honestly, I don't need narcissistic speakers. I want actual people really doing real stuff, right? I want to sit in a panel like this with a bunch of people that are actually out in the market doing things, making mistakes, having success. I don't really need a paid speaker up there trying to do rah-rah and get people all motivated.
Try to sell something.
I don't like that stuff. So,
Yeah.
so Limitless for me has been a great way to kind of promote that, under the radar entrepreneur, guys and girls and gals that are doing great things all over the place, building companies and crushing it all over the country, all over the world, actually.
Yeah.
So that's why I think for me, Limitless, just really good.
This will be from my mouth, this will be my 5th year? Is it 5th year you've been doing it?
Year,
right.
Yeah.
And it's back in Arizona this year, which is cool, right? Last year was really kind of interesting to watch. Some other Amazon operators came.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So now they're not talking operations. They may end up talking something different, completely out of their scope, that's maybe investment relations or gold or metals, there's all kind, or attorneys, tax, asset,
leadership.
So now you can really, and you've met a lot of them now,
I have.
right? And they've helped out with Beyond the Brotherhood, and it was a great crew. We had a lot of fun going there and going to Bud's with Jimmy May. Good time, right? But you can see the light bulb turn on, and that's what's fun for me, right? So it's kind of opening up all these other different type of business owners. And one of the coolest guys that I met there, was a big painting contractor, right? And he just noticed I had a hunting hat on, and it was just fun to have the conversation with them. And then you're just, you start going off about, even though he's got 100 employees that are doing a commercial painting, right? And I start asking him questions of well, how's the hiring out there? All I hear about is you can't hire, no one wants to do the physical labor jobs. Everybody just wants to, be working inside. What are you seeing out in the hiring market? And he starts seeing the same thing of a bunch of younger crew that are coming up. And, some of these younger, let's just say males are going back to the old type of work versus they don't want to be, because they know AI is coming down, and how are they gonna shift? So.
Well, unemployment in that, you guys might know this, but in that younger age group, 18 to 20 is in the high teens.
Yeah.
It's not good, right? Those folks are having a tough time finding jobs.
Which at dinner, we had a friend who's very involved in, obviously AI, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we had a good conversation last night about what he thinks. But where I'm rounding that to Limitless, it's great you're going to meet other people that are in tech. You're gonna meet people that are, truly tax. Politicians have been there,
Yeah.
to pull that in, and it's just
Gold, silver, water, timber, real estate,
UFC,
yeah,
UFC,
like yeah,
wrestlers.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Yeah,
it's a wide variety, but at the end of the day, it's all the common goal of like, what can I see that you only know what you know, right? And it's going to open up a different nugget in your mind that you may look at your business differently, or even delivering packages. How is AI going to affect that?
Well, right. So this year we're going to have a lot of panels around AI, and obviously as we should, and how to implement it, where it's heading. We have economists, kind of doing forward projections on things like that. It's interesting. A couple of years ago we had, every year we've had a gold and silver person.
Yeah.
I think last year it was at 3,000. Now we just passed 5,000. Not that we're advocating to invest in gold, but it's interesting when you find somebody that's really, really, really good in their lane, and they're explaining why you should do something. That's all you want, because you can't be good at everything.
Yeah. Is there people that are giving advice on how to be a better husband?
I don't know. We probably need that.